First of all, I really want to thank Walid and the entire Desalytics team for bringing us together, Elena, Laura, Roberta, and Dragan, and creating this global platform. What a relevant and timely topic for our industry. Thank you also to Aquatech for sponsoring this event and demonstrating their leadership. As we all know, the water sector is evolving at an extraordinary pace. We're seeing a surge in proven water technologies, a growing wave of innovative and young startups, and more funding opportunity more than ever before. Yet, despite this momentum, many of us are facing regulatory environment that struggle to keep up with the pace of change. Unfortunately, and sometimes as a result, these technologies are not being adopted quickly enough to meet the sector's most urgent challenges. So today, we'll explore what it takes to rise above the noise and truly stand out, whether that's through new digital platform, breakthrough campaigns, creative partnership, or finding brand new ways to improve and deliver impact in a sector, as you know, that is so vital for our future. I'm excited to moderate this panel and look forward to hearing from our experts' insight and sharing ideas on how we can all make a true difference. Since we only have 60 minutes, and I will ask each of our amazing panelists, Elena, Laura, Roberta, and Dragan, to introduce themselves, their role and company, as I ask them their first question. And to all the participants, please do not hesitate to raise your question all through the discussion. We want this to be highly interactive. So let's just jump right now. I'm going to start with Roberta, and Roberta is joining us today from the UK, and I'd love for you to begin by introducing yourself to the audience. But my question to you, and it's really drawing on your branding experience. I'm eager to hear your take on an issue which I think is really at the heart of this discussion. In today's crowded and very competitive water technology landscape, how can solution providers strategically use their branding, not just their technical specification, to create a very distinctive market presence, build trust, and build new partnership that allows them to grow?
Hi, Marie Chantal. Hi, everybody. First of all, thank you for having me on this panel. A little bit about myself. Like you said, I'm Roberta. I'm a senior brand and communication strategist. I have over a decade of experience in this area of branding and communications. Previously, I worked at Varsila, where I supported global brand positioning within the marine sector. Currently, I lead the global marketing and communications at Gutermann, a leader in intelligent water loss technologies, where I focus on aligning brand strategy with business growth and stakeholder trust. I am CIPR certified, I hold a master's in corporate comms, and I completed a mini MBA in brand management. Basically, my work is all about turning complex technologies into simple human stories that resonate both inside the organization and externally. Now, regarding your question, in the water technology space, it's very easy to default to talking about features, specifications, performance, but realistically, the truth is most companies are solving similar problems with similar tools. And what sets a brand apart and what builds long-term partnerships is clarity, consistency, and I think most of all, purpose. And when I say purpose, this is in marketing, it's quite a buzzword at the moment. But purpose is not just a marketing term, purpose is responsibility. So basically, when you have so many solutions that are technically strong, the real differentiator isn't in the technical specs, it's in the actual story. So branding is how you create meaning, is how you build trust before the first meeting with the customer, and how you stay top of mind long after the sales pitch. I would dare to say that branding is trust. So I do see it firsthand when solution providers lead with consistency, with clarity, with purpose, and not just with product features. They become more memorable, more relatable, and ultimately more trusted. And this is something I see every day with Gutermann, where the technology goes beyond just leak detection. It enables the clients to manage water more sustainably. Recently, a colleague of mine was saying that a customer told him that the solutions give them control over something that they only used to react to. And this stuck to me because it's a perfect example of how innovation becomes meaningful when it clearly serves a purpose, and when your brand tells that story, that kind of story, that resonates far beyond than specs and features. Ultimately, the specs sell the tool, but the brand sells the vision. And in an industry like ours, that vision is what turns solutions into partnerships, and then partnerships into progress. When it comes to strategically leveraging the brand, never underestimate internal branding, because your team has to believe the story you're telling. If your own people can't explain your value, then how can you expect partners and customers to really trust it? I hope that answered your question.
Totally agree, Roberta. We often forget the internal sell.
Yes.
People inside have to truly believe in their brand. And I love also the fact that you said purpose equal responsibility.
Absolutely.
Well done. Now I'm going to talk to Elena, who's in Madrid. And Elena, with your extensive experience as a global marketing and communication leader in the water sector, I know you've witnessed firsthand how trust can make or break the adoption of some of these wonderful new technologies. After giving us a brief overview on your own personal journey, I'd love for you to share your perspective on why trust is absolutely fundamental, especially as industry embrace new technology. In your experience, please tell us some practical steps that have proven very effective for building these relationships and trust with utilities, regulator, or even communities.
Thanks, Marie Chantal, and hello to everyone. And also thank you, Walid, for inviting me. Yes, my name is Elena Reina, and I've been working as a communications and marketing director for the water business of Acciona in the last 18 years. Before that, I used to work in local TV channel in Madrid and also in different PR agencies. So when I joined Acciona, I didn't know nothing about water, but I knew how to connect people and companies and to promote their brand. As you may know, Acciona is nowadays one of the biggest players in the world in the water sector, and especially in desalination. I believe trust is the key when introducing digital technology in the water sector. Utilities and regulators are careful because they manage important infrastructures and they answer to citizens and follow strict rules. So gaining their trust means not only showing innovation, but also handling risk properly. And the practical steps or example we have fun and we use is running pilot projects with clear results, be transparent with data and how that technology works, involves technicians as managers from the beginning, and getting the technology be certified. All of this is trust.
I agree. Thank you for that insight. And building on your insight, many utilities are just beginning their transformation journey. They're not all in the same place in that cycle. What have you found as one of the most effective strategies for educating these stakeholders, especially those who might feel very hesitant or overwhelmed about new solution and what can solution bring? I'd love your take on that.
Yeah, for sure. Show value through local and real examples. It's like use nearby case studies. So don't just tell me, but show me. Also give easy practical training, use real tools or simulators, and skip the slang or very technical language. So you have to help people to feel confident, not confused. Also, you may find trust staff and train them to first so they can influence in others. So it's like when people listen more when the message comes from a colleague they respect. So in summary, educating means listening, simplifying, and providing real example, real value.
I love your don't tell me, show me. That's right. That's totally right. Now I'm gonna bring on Laura, Laura's joining us from Michigan. She's originally from Brazil, And her cross-continental experience really gives her a unique lens on innovation in the sector. After you introduce yourself, Laura, I'd love to hear your perspective on how you have leveraged digital platform or thought leadership or very innovative and creative partnership to drive adoption of your solution or amplify your brand's voice within this industry.
Hello, Marie. Thank you so much. And thanks, Walid, for the invitation. And glad to be here with all these great panelists. As I said, I'm from Brazil originally. And when I moved to the States, I have been always journeying through water roles, right? Usually in leading companies with technologies. Now I'm in Grundfos as a global strategic marketing director for the water utility business. But yeah, my element is communications. As I think someone was mentioning here about TV broadcasting and all of that. I have been journalist by degree. And the unique thing that I experienced was to be 4 years in sales, account management role. And that was very early on in my career, young woman in the US, in the southeast of the US, actually, calling in the deep southern of power plants and utilities. And that gave me a unique view of when you talk about customer experience, when you talk about how your brand show up. It's really bring a unique view to build that marketing acumen more strongly and very focused on the ultimate user of technologies. So yeah, when you ask about the combination of all of Juice, I think that all just together, digital platforms as a service for the journey, thought leadership, innovative partnerships, they are powerful combo to drive adoption and top of mind of your brand. But I would like to start with thought leadership as is, in my opinion, is the most important, because as we're touching here is that trust is the narrative. As a Japanese would say, is your ikigai, the why. And it makes all the others way more assertive and driven. So demystifying a bit thought leadership strategy sometimes comes as a bit overwhelming and distant term, especially for outside in the broader organization, even when you talk with your top leadership. I have this thought leadership strategy, or you're a thought leader, let's do this and that. But in the end of the day, we're talking about the most strategic way to determine your communications house, choosing the 3-4 couple that you're going to focus on and that can make a unique imprint. When I joined Grundfos a little more than 2 years ago, my key goal was to create that strategy to help with the brand transformation, to enable adoption of digital solutions, more specifically in the municipal space. And that came with the transformation, change management and everything came with thought leadership strategy. So by defining pillars where I wanted to act, and we are very strong in water access because the DNA of the company as a private company, having the foundation, the Paul Duyensen Foundation behind it for Grundfos, it is to have a whole business set up to tackle the scalability of giving access. And we have a goal of 300 million people by 2030 and all the partnership, but like, understanding that's the starting point of your narrative. We can play in tier 1 technology. That's where Grundfos play. Amazing solutions, always innovating in our roadmap. But products not what's going to distinguish us. The products are not going to make us top of mind. So customer journey, you can excel at that. You can provide the most amazing digital solutions to make your value proposition of the product easier to be comprehended and quantified. But in the end of the day, people are going to talk to you. Oh, what's Grundfos? Oh, these are the guys that are talking about all the time about sustainable aquifer management and bringing solutions to that. Because today might be something that we acquired this company, going to build this new sensor. Tomorrow, AI is going to help us be there in terms of technology roadmap. But the why, the continuity of the why, and how clearly you convey that is, for me, the main game change if you're going to be top of mind.
Totally agreed. The why, I think we've heard about this for a few years, but we have to go back constantly. The why for us, for our organization, for our customer. Now I have an additional question for you, Laura. We hear a lot about AI and AI communication tool, and its advanced very rapidly over the past year. What shift or opportunities do you see for your brand to engage with your audience? How do you have insight on how digital evolution and AI can be very valuable to our discussion and to our customers' discussion?
I actually have some tangible, I would like to hear actually from my colleagues as well, if in their organizations have been grasping how the marketing teams and the customer-facing team in general, the commercial team has been bringing in AI through their efficiency and how the usability has been. I just did a survey a couple of weeks ago, actually. It was very timely, and I was reviewing the results earlier this morning. again. And you have more than 100 people, specific marketing organization, global and regional. We have a split. 50%, about 48% of the people are highly engaged with everything we had brought in efficiency of AI tools. So you name it, all the Microsoft Copilot, the Grunfos, specifically Companion, and everything. They want more, and they name it. They know it. They know more. I'm Googling, what's that? What's that? What that does? They know they want more. The other half is like, please help me understand how to use Copilot. So it's very interesting to see that we are in this moment that the first thing I see is like, how can you enable peer collaboration? Because you have an organization that has extreme opposites, and one side wants way more and the other wants the beginning. But what I have been doing in noticing is that our efficiency in terms of creating copywriting, creating landing pages out of a bulk of content, if you give the right commands, let's put it this way, if you truly get familiarized on how to use, the efficiency on this group that is almost 50% has increased more than 50% in the bread and butter part. So there's still a lot of kind of backstage on how we as a marketing operational brings efficiency. How that turns out into driving better customer experience and adoptions, of course, is the quality of what you're bringing and the abundance of what you're bringing. By being able to do more, by being able to serve more people, especially in a global company where you want to localize your company by every single language, the 50 entities we operate around the globe. How can you do that in the level that without AI, we haven't been able to be that quick on launching a whole package or a whole webinar that now can be replicated with AI simulator, like person that's now talking in that language that before we'd not have an expert to talk to. So it makes us closer, it makes us present, and makes Grunfos be able to reach even more with the same level of customer experience somehow. So that's the backstage part. We're very focused on how to improve that number and enable our people, but also the output has been extremely helpful on the footprint we have.
So I really appreciate it internally again and externally. We have to think on both sides of the equation and not just marketing externally. Thank you. Thank you. Now I'm really excited because now we have a global advisor on digital science and he's a recognized leader in the sector. Dragan, I'm going to go back a bit to this same question. One topic that has received a lot of attention in the recent month is the role of AI. Given your vast experience and the people that you've worked with, how have you seen these tools really help the adoption of new water solutions?
That's a really good question. And first of all, I'm an imposter here. I'm not marketing or branding specialist. I'm technologist. Yes, we've seen huge changes in the use of what is called large language models, which, by the way, it's not just AI. AI is much wider in a sense what has been done and what's been applied in the water sector. We all understand the large language models as providing really good tool for various activities, and the savings and efficiencies that Laura was talking about all come from this invention, really. If I can just say one thing about the water sector in general, it is that the adoption of AI is very low. If you look at the water sector being drinking water and wastewater or sanitation, drinking water usage of AI is about 10%. In wastewater is even worse, about 5%. So we have to be realistic about where this is being used. But I can see from the marketing point and branding, with all these tools, with the Copilot, with ChatGPT, it is very exciting. But I'll go back to the technology and innovation, because that's where I've been working for over 40 years. And there has been like 30 years of development in AI in the water sector. And quite a lot of it is still in this development stage, research stage, and slowly moving into startups. I've been involved with 3 of them over my career and made so many faux pas with not being trained in marketing, doing something that will not lose trust, but make me look naive, so to speak. Yeah, I've touched upon few things in my career, but what I'd like also to mention here, because the trust is so important, all for it. But with trust, I'd like to bring a flip coin of the trust in technology when you're speaking to potential clients, I'd like to turn it to the public trust. And we have examples of when public trust was lost in service providers. And the examples are Flint in Michigan, in North America, and currently in the UK, when the big hoo-ha is about combined sewer overflows and all the sewage being spilled into receiving waters. You know, whether you are a utility provider, technology company, consultancy, NGO, strong trust in what you do from both utilities and public is the basic element: trust, transparency. So we don't hide problems or challenges, but we also are very proud of successes in bringing that technology and innovation to practice.
Thank you very much, Jürgen. Very good points. And thank you for being with us. We appreciate your insight. We want to make this very interactive. So if you have any questions for our panelists, please do not hesitate to jump in. Now's your chance to ask our expert anything that you have on your mind. I have a few additional questions. Roberta, we talked earlier about branding, and to build on that again, I'm curious, how do you actually measure the impact of your branding effort? And I'm not just talking pure visibility, but do you have specific metrics or indicator that you track to know that your brand is truly making a difference for your partner or your customer, or actually for the broader water sector?
Well, mostly it's the brand sentiment that it's being measured. I use at the moment questionnaires to test to see what exactly the perception is, how people are seeing us. And speaking and going back to your previous question about AI, I do use AI quite a bit because it allows us to listen a lot better, and it sharpens the way we measure the brand, and it sharpens the way we create. So instead of creating branding campaigns, for example, that are mostly intuition-led, they now become more insight-driven. Because of AI, we get a lot more insights. And I know that a lot of the times people think that AI will kill creativity or it won't give us the insights we want. I feel like, on the contrary, in terms of measurement, AI works fantastically. And it makes the brand not only insight-driven, but also it makes it more humane. It tells us exactly what people want and what people actually need, what they're looking for, what areas of the brand they are trusting, what areas of the brands they are maybe not trusting, or where the problems are, and where we need to communicate more and better.
I love that. So it's having that good balance, that good combination of data-driven, kind of human-driven.
Exactly.
And I think we've all been looking for this kind of perfect balance for a long time. So now maybe we have a chance to get closer to that. Elena, I'm kind of curious to get your perspective on the same question, and anything that has surprised you in the last year with some of these AI initiatives.
Yeah, first about the measure of the brand. Acciona doesn't measure its brand by visibility only, but also how it influences in real decisions, like winning projects or building institutional trust or attracting talent. And regarding the AI, we also use it and have it like a helper, is what I like to say. It helps you to find a way to finish something.
Laura, with your extensive experience across various regions, I'm curious to get your perspective, because I think about that often. Do you see major differences in water organization or our actual customer from a market presence globally? Do we see a difference between how to stand out in the Americas versus Europe versus Africa? Or is it truly global, or is it more local? Curious on your perspective.
That's a good question. We have a global strategy. We picked where we wanted to win in terms of the journey and the narrative, what's our why. But the proof points, how you make that understandable. For instance, to pick, I think we have a lot of people from Africa joining here. They have a relationship with groundwater that's not the same of the relationship of the American people has with groundwater. They actually stay away from consuming sometimes groundwater for a cultural perception of that. And so the way that you can articulate the health of aquifers and how technology can enable that is completely distinct although we're trying to drive exactly the same output, which is bringing technology, AI, to have a better visibility on the worldwide issue that's depletion of aquifers and how we're over extracting blindly without having a sustainable end-to-end view. That is still the outcome we wanted to deploy, but that localization comes a lot with the PR efforts in how we're going to talk in the community, understanding their culture, where they're coming from, how their relationship with that issue is, and what they expect from that. So the way that's navigated is very close to the footprint we have in that country. And what I noticed as well in terms of adoption, if you look at countries that are operating, let's speak on Brazil, no bias, not because I'm Brazilian, but they have always been in the front end of the digital solution side, the biggest consumers of social media, always in banking. If you compare Brazilian banking with American banking, it was the most shocking thing for me, actually, how advanced Brazil can be in security, in interface of user experience. So that reflects as well on how ready this market is to use some value proposition tools that are digital. You know what I mean? So also, you don't waste your money on markets that are not quite there yet. So there is a kind of this, again, backstage again on how you deploy in your focus countries, your marketing operational experience, but also on the language of the message as how you crafted it, understanding the reality of the country. Great question.
Love it. Global, local, and again, it's finding that right balance between both to be able to really approach key markets and potentially growing market in the near future. I'm going to go back to Dragan because I think that in many markets and as a marketer, we're often struggling with how much water costs versus its value. As an expert in the sector, how do you believe marketers and solution provider can better promote or better communicate the full fundamental value of water beyond its price tag?
I think you're absolutely right to put a finger on that one, because we are struggling in terms of renewal of infrastructure or getting the funds or getting the approvals for investment in infrastructure to convince the public about it. I'm quite sure that with numbers, again, I'm a technologist, I operate with numbers, facts. But that's not good enough, because for quite a large population of the public, the water comes from the clouds. And I'm sure some of them imagine there is a big funnel to collect the water and bring it to your house. And you get it 24 hours, 7 days a week. The point there is that we haven't educated the public in a way that they understand the value, and that value of that infrastructure is also very costly. Investing in infrastructure. There was a mention of the banks, and I give example of the banks, how the business model of the banks changed. Who has been to the office these days, to the bank physically, to deposit something or buy something or get the money from the bank? We do it electronically. We do it through our mobile phones or online. So the business model has shifted completely, and that hasn't happened to the water sector. We are still, I think, seeing, and this may be seen unfair to some utilities who are making great effort communicating what they're doing. We're still seeing that the water sector is, if we are not seen by the customer, we're doing a good job. And that has to change so that the value in customers is then related to what they're prepared to invest in getting that clean water, wastewater being taken away, and then treated to be cleaned and released into the environment.
Thank you. If you could just give one piece of advice to a new CEO, a new water innovator aiming to build both trust and strong brand in today's digital landscape, what would be your advice to them? And remember, he's a startup, young, and may not have all of the means that you guys work with on a daily basis. So I'll start with Elena. What would be your advice?
My advice would be like, focus on showing, no just telling. It's like I said before, show me what you are doing, because I think trust comes from being transparent and being consistent and delivering real results. So if you share real stories and also let your customers and partners speak for you, you finally come get the real trust. So definitely focus on showing, no just tell me.
Thank you. Thank you. Laura.
Yes, I'll shop my advice in three pieces. Still one is about thought leadership. But again, no matter how big the appeal of the new technology innovation is, which is something that I see many of these startup CEOs very caught up about. They're babies. It's the one and only. It can change the world. It is. I'm not taking that away from you. But what will really make you stand out is in the product. What distinguishes a brand are the sequence of experiences and how they're going to show up online and offline. And this experience can be sensorial, intellectual, you name it, but as long as you have a clearly articulated why, you bring a fruitful path. But define early on your thought leadership strategy. What are the themes you're associated with? What's the point of view? And then how your solution technologies connect with it. Third piece, I promise, it's the last one, but creating value isn't necessarily about pitching about how great we are on solving an existing problem. Let's open up our mind for that. And I'm guilty of the same, but our industry often scrambles around old problems, bringing thousands of new solutions that are competing in the same space. What about dissolving the old and creating the new? So this is a thought I have been really utilizing more recently, because we're in this pivotal moment of a planetary transformation for a new era where we can let go of the old problems. And when we want to create the new, what it looks like in terms of technology narrative and all. So just a last piece of let's embrace that collectively, and we might find curious things out of that.
Thank you. Roberta, what would be your advice?
My advice also, similar to Laura, my advice also comes in three pieces. So the first one is start with clarity, lead with purpose, and always be consistent. You don't need to be the loudest brand, you need to be the clearest one. As long as your brand reflects who you are and why you exist, then trust becomes a natural outcome rather than a forced one. Then the second part of my advice would be to keep things simple. A lot of the times in branding, in marketing, we tend to overcomplicate the message. Now, if the message is too complicated for someone outside the industry or outside the company to repeat it, your message is not working. So a strong brand should be able to explain what it does, who it does it for, and why it matters in under 10 seconds. So this should be the bar that we should be aiming for. And the third part of my advice would be don't forget about your own people. Don't forget internal branding. That is very important. In my point of view, I think the greatest asset any company, any brand has are the people. So as long as your people understand what you stand for, you're on the good track.
So I heard, don't be the loudest. It's not necessary. Really focus on being simple, and don't forget your internal ambassador, because they can do a great job for you. And we tend to
Exactly. You need to be clear. You need to have purpose. Don't forget the internal ambassadors. Very important.
Thank you. And Dragan, same question. You're an advisor to a new CEO. What's your advice?
I think what my predecessors said, it all collects to one, and that's a story. And the story has to be thought out. And also what usually the technologists come up with, what is the biggest benefit of their technology may not be what the customer or the public want or need. And I'll give you a very clear example, which I stole from somebody, from a marketeer called Rory Sutherland. The Eurotrain that comes from London to Paris. And it's about 3 hours it takes to do the journey. They came up with a cost to increase the efficiency by 40 minutes. And he says, is that what people wanted? He said, for 10% of the value of that efficiency, you could have provided a better Wi-Fi to make the time on the train more enjoyable. For the same amount of money, you could have brought the gorgeous models, male and female, I should add, to serve free, very expensive champagne, and people would want to stay longer on the train. My point is, the story, it's not about what inventors and what the people who come up with technology think the market needs. It's what the market really requires.
Thank you. That's very insightful. Thank you. We actually have a question now from Lily, and I'm going to try to do it justice. She's asking, how can we make everyone from our own organization understand marketing? She says we have an incredible, intelligent team, but it seems communication and consistency in storytelling and branding are not on their agenda, despite what it could do to significantly generate more engagement. So I don't know who would like to take this question from Lily.
Okay, I will. Definitely, as my colleague said, through internal communication, like a steady rain, being consistent all the time with also with ambassadors. It's very important to define an internal ambassador or several internal ambassadors. In Acciona, we have the figure of technical leaders. So there are some engineers, experts in their field. They work as internal leaders to repeat the marketing message. So basically, steady rain all the time, and internal communication is very important.
In one of my previous companies, we had that exact situation. Everybody was very technical. Most of the people were engineers, and of course, they didn't think marketing is something they do. It's something that just the marketing team does, and it sits there. Now, what we found is that we are trying to do all sorts of value propositions and internal communications, internal branding, and then it didn't necessarily resonate as the question was. And we found that what people actually wanted was a little bit of training. I've started this training course that took 6 months, and it was only 10 minutes every month. It was completely optional for everybody that's interested. They can just join. And we started, I called it Brand in 10. And we started from scratch, so from zero, basically. What is brand? Where it came from? Why it's important to you as a person? And then we continued through differentiation, brand equity, all these terms, but we explained them so that even someone that doesn't have a background in marketing will understand, because we all choose brands every single day. When we go to a supermarket versus another, when we choose Coke versus Pepsi, we always choose a brand. As soon as you start explaining this to your internal stakeholders, they will start to understand better, and then they will start to integrate and see it. And then, of course, all the brand communications should start from the top. Like Elena was saying, if it's continuously communicated by the brand ambassadors, by the CEO, by the top leadership, then slowly we'll start to integrate in everyday talk and in the DNA of the employees as well.
Excellent, Roberta. We have a question also from Israel, and he asked, how can you share about sensitive topics such as wastewater reuse or water scarcity scenarios? So I don't know if someone wants to take this on, discussing a sensitive topic or marketing sensitive topic.
I can start because I go back to the same example I referred to when it comes with one of the pillars of thought leadership that we deployed in the Granfos thought leadership strategy, which is about the aquifer depletion, sustainable aquifer management, as we call. If you think about Granfos, like we're a company that we move water. At our core, we have hardware, we have pumps, we have digital, IoT as a service and software. But at the end of the day, we're the biggest contributor to the problem. How vulnerable it is to be a thought leader about aquifer depletion when you are perceived still as part of your DNA is a pump company. All that to say that it's be vulnerable, but have a plan, have a commitment to what you can change and influence, because you are in such a pivotal role on that. We have to think about it. And especially when we are acquiring companies that bring digital solutions to our portfolio, and now we can do a better job on that. Let's talk about it. Let's influence legislations on, like Florida, not from a political stand. Who is right? Is the farmer that's off grid and need this type of solution, but should now be taking water for the utilities, or the governments? Let's talk about all the things that can enable this to be more efficient, and then you guys are gonna make the law. So it's really taking that on in a very transparent, vulnerable, and fact-based way. That's been the approach that really worked for us in such a sensitive topic for Granfos.
And Dragan, I'm curious on your perspective on promoting or discussing or communicating on sensitive issue. What are your insights and your advice to us marketers?
I've been involved in situations where we had to deal with public. They've been flooded twice around Christmas, one after another. They were angry with the water company. They're angry with the community. They had their own ideas why they were flooded. What happened? We had to come in and show them what the technology was showing, the reasons and what the potential solutions. So the key point is that you need to know who you're communicating with, what their technical level is, what their understanding of the policies is, and also use culturally appropriate language and examples. I always believe in contextual examples. There is no point in giving general advice without explaining how would that apply in their case. I was talking about technology, about innovation. The key point is the language. Avoid jargon. Obviously, again, if you're in a particular technological background, you will use the language that may not be understandable by others. In this case, when I was talking about flooding, people flood just before Christmas and after Christmas, cleaning their houses from mud and everything. So be empathetic with them. Try to put yourself in their shoes and also be transparent about who you are, what you're bringing to the table, so that they know that you're not trying to sell something unless you're trying to sell something, and then be transparent about that. And finally, I was talking about numbers, about data, but we need to use the data in discussions, in trying to convey the message. I would say use the data thoughtfully.
I want to thank all of you, our experts, for sharing your perspective and very concrete strategies today. I think your insight have highlighted the power of branding, innovation, leadership, but you've also underscored that standing out in the water industry isn't just about visibility and being loud. Contrary, it's about being honest, it's being about vulnerable, it's about simplicity, and that's how you're going to have a meaningful impact, and you're going to build lasting partnership and relationship. For everyone that's joining us today, please remember the water sector is evolving at an extraordinary pace. And it's those who dare to challenge the convention. It's those who embrace true transformation. It's those who are willing to be authentic who will most likely shape the future of this industry. So let's take today's inspiration, what we heard from our expert, and let's turn that into action. Let's build brands and solutions that create real value for our community and our planet. Now, I want to thank you for your engagement, your energy, and your shared commitment to evolving this industry forward. And I really look forward to seeing the bold step that each of you will take to truly stand out. Again, I want to thank you, Walid, for bringing all of us together. This was totally a global conversation. I feel very proud and very grateful to have been part of it. Thank you.